Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
And as we continue with the month of September, we're going to talk about some wonderful places you might want to check out right here in Taiwan. These are tourist attractions that might make you think you've stepped into yesteryear, or you've gone back in time, and that's when you walk Taiwan's old streets, a journey to the past.
Oh, I love history, and I love going and exploring places where they've tried to maintain the older buildings. You know, they don't just tear them down and build new buildings. They try to take care of the old buildings. I love that. I wish we had a few more older buildings in Taiwan, but we have some cool older streets. There's some of these places I haven't been to, but I'm sure, Tom, you've seen everything we're going to talk about.
Well, maybe. I'm not sure. But yeah, I do like to go to the old streets and check them out. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So yeah, since we can't really travel overseas because of viruses and stuff like that, hey, there's plenty to see right here in good old Taiwan. If you can beat the crowds during the weekends, then you can probably have a pretty good time. So let's get to it. Let's find out about some old streets in Taiwan. Let's read the first part of our lesson right now. History is always around us. It influences our world in fundamental ways that we might not be conscious of. For example, why do some buildings in one region resemble those of a culture halfway around the world? Why is a particular food traditional in a particular part of the country? There are many places in Taiwan where we can investigate the stories behind questions like these. Let's explore a few. Jiufen Old Street. This might be the most famous old street in Taiwan. Some say the magical world in the movie Spirited Away resembles Jiufen, so your first visit to Jiufen Old Street might feel strangely familiar. There are sweet and chewy taro balls and other street foods to be had here, but the most satisfying experience in the town is wandering the winding streets and catching glimpses of its lantern-lined rooftops and dramatic coastal views from its endless narrow stairs. Lugang Old Street. Lugang in Zhanghua County was a busy port during the Qing dynasty. While business is no longer focused on the deerskin trade that gave the city its name, its geographic location is still an important part of Lugang's identity. Nowadays, many of the best treats available on Lugang Old Street are based around seafood. Lugang is also known for its exceptional temples, including the Lugang Mazu Temple. Daxi Old Street. Located in Taoyuan City, Daxi Old Street is a great place to wander and shop. As is to be expected from a market street, there are many delightful snacks to try, such as dogan. However, one of the biggest draws of Daxi Old Street is the elaborately carved stone facades above the shop's doors. The details are truly remarkable.
Okay, folks, let's dive in. These couple of days that we're talking about Taiwan's old streets are good for me because there are a lot of these places I haven't been to yet. So I can get kind of a glimpse, an idea of what they're like, and then when I go, it won't be such a surprise. So we're going to take a walking tour, it looks like, walking Taiwan's old streets. And we're going to jump back into the past. It'll feel like you're actually living in the past in some of these places that have old buildings, and they've tried to preserve them and restore the older buildings that, you know, start crumbling, and sometimes they fall down. But history is indeed always around us. I think that's my favorite thing. And I also, Tom, love that old smell that you can smell when you walk into old buildings, or you're in a building that's at least 100 years old. There's that old smell. It's not bad. It just is old. I love that.
Me too. It kind of reminds me of the smell of my grandmother's barn.
Oh, really?
But we'll get to that some other time here. But in today's program, we are indeed walking Taiwan's old streets. That's the best way to see them, to walk around and take a peek and take some pictures, get something to eat, go with your family. or whatever. And this will be a journey to the past. You'll see things when you walk the streets of Taiwan's old streets, and those things will remind you of things that happened in the past, maybe things that happened during the Japanese colonial era or when your grandfather was just a little kid. Those, of course, will all be in your imagination. So, indeed, history is always around us. It influences our world in fundamental ways that we might not be conscious of. So here we've got the word fundamental, and that just means basic, okay? It's at the bottom layer of understanding. For example, when I was a kid, my father taught me the fundamentals of basketball. You know, the basic skills of dribbling and passing and shooting, the fundamental skills. So here, yes, the world influences us in fundamental, basic ways.
Yeah, fundamental can also just mean something that's very central to what you're learning or, primary principles that you're learning. If you start at the beginning, you're probably going to be in a class that teaches the fundamentals of English. Or I once took a class when I was very young, and it was called Fundamental Math. So it's just the basic things of whatever you're studying or covering or looking at. So, yeah, it's in fundamental ways, history has influenced our world, of course, and influenced your life now, even though it might not be something you consciously think of, something that you spend time on. It's kind of a subconscious, just below, what you really are thinking about. You feel like, yeah, history has influenced our world in big ways. So, for example, here's an example our writer put down here. Why do some buildings in one region resemble those of a culture halfway around the world? If you're halfway around the world, it's a phrase we use to just describe we're a really long way from home, typically. My family thinks I live halfway around the world because I live in Taiwan, and they're back in the U.S. in Arizona. So I am halfway around the world. But I don't know, why do some buildings resemble those in another country that has a different culture halfway around the world?
Well, I would say the easiest answer would be European colonialism, but there probably are other ways. You could say that there are buildings here in Taiwan that resemble the buildings of Japan, and that is also because of colonialism, but there might be other ways. And again, halfway means halfway, half of the distance from point A to point B. So if you go halfway around the world from Taiwan, you're going to be in South America, but as you said, halfway can just refer to a long distance. It doesn't necessarily have to mean exactly halfway around the world, just a long ways away.
Yeah, and you don't have to be precise with it. Maybe you're doing your homework or you're eating dinner and someone says, how far have you gotten? I'm halfway done. I'm halfway done. So, yeah, we use that quite a bit, actually. Yeah, I'm already halfway done. Yay! So, or I'm only halfway done, which means you have a lot left to do. So, why is a particular food traditional in a particular part of the country? Well, long ago, I think the case is that certain trees and crops grew in that area naturally, and so the people probably focused their time on making that particular vegetable or fruit tasty for them. There are probably other reasons as well. There are many places in Taiwan where we can investigate the stories behind questions like these. That's fun. If you investigate something, you're checking something out. Maybe you are in law enforcement, you're a cop or a detective. If you investigate a crime, you're going to look at how it happened and try to find some clues and solve that crime. So you're discovering facts that you'll need to come up with either someone to arrest or make a conclusion. But yeah, you investigate things by finding out the truth behind them and finding out the facts.
Yep, you're trying to find out the facts of the crime. You want to investigate the crime, or you want to conduct and investigation. But in this particular case, we're just trying to find out some more information about these stories behind the questions. Yeah, we want to check this out. We want to answer some of these questions. So let's explore a few of these places. Now, first of all, up in the north of Taiwan, we've got the town of Jiufen, which is near Geelong there. And this might be the most famous old street in Taiwan. I certainly remember when I came to Taiwan, lots of people said, yes, you got to go check out Jiufen. It's a traditional little mountain village. It used to be a gold mining center, or the other town near there used to be a gold mining center. So, of course, it's a great place to go check out. Lots of old houses, lots of old stairways to check out, and, of course, lots of delicious snacks to try.
Yeah, I also heard there are a lot of cats there. Is that true?
Kind of near there in Hodong, but it's not the same town.
Oh, you have to go. Okay.
It's in the same general area, but you cannot say it's the same town.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, old gold mining town, which is kind of fun. So it does resemble, some people think, the movie Spirited Away. I guess there's a scene in the movie that looks just like Jiufen. So that's kind of fun. Spirited Away was made by that Japanese director. It's an animated film. So when you go to Jiufen, you might feel like it's strangely familiar if you've already seen the movie Spirited Away.
And we'll continue talking about Jiufen Old Street and Lugang Old Street in just a minute. But first of all, we're going to take a break and listen to our Chinese teacher.
谢谢美语老师。Hello, my name is Shelby. 今天地方文化来拜访老街。标题A journey to the past. Journey 旅程，尤其是指长途的旅行。人生的旅程就是 a life journey， 在后面加上 to， 再加地方，表示到哪里旅行。A journey to the past， 怀旧之旅，历史围绕着我们，以一种我们不自觉的重要方式。第二句 in 加点点点 ways， 以什么的方式。Fundamental 基础的，十分重要的，相当于 essential 或者 basic， 还可以加上 to 加名词来表达对什么很重要。例如，创新对科技很重要。Innovation is fundamental to technology。下一句，例如，为何某建筑和远在某地的文化雷同？动词 resemble 像 A resemble B。A 像 B， 例如 She resembles her grandmother， 她像她祖母。句子当中的 those of a culture， those 是指代名词，指那些 those buildings。Halfway around the world， 照字面半个地球以外，指很远的地方。为什么某食物是某地的传统呢？台湾有好几个地方，我们可以探究这些故事。首先，我们来看Jiufen老街，这可能是最久的老街。有人说，电影《Spirited Away》神隐少女当中的神奇世界类似Jiufen，看起来不陌生。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Okay, let's continue talking about the old streets in Taiwan, walking Taiwan's old streets, a journey to the past. And remember, we're trying to answer some of these questions, like why do some buildings in one region of the world resemble those of a culture halfway around the world? Why is a particular food traditional in one part of the country? And perhaps we've got some other questions we could ask as well. And remember, we did talk about Jiufen Old Street a little bit here. And we did mention the fact that I guess the movie Spirited Away was kind of influenced, I guess, or inspired by the town of Jiufen. So if you see Spirited Away, you might see, the scenery of Jiufen in this movie.
Yeah, kind of fun. Let's talk about what's there in terms of food. There are sweet and chewy taro balls and other street foods to be had there. To be had there just means they're available there. But the most satisfying experience in the town is wandering the winding streets and catching glimpses of the lantern-lined rooftops and dramatic coastal views from its endless narrow stairs. Ooh, you have to climb stairs. Let's talk about what a taro ball is. You know, I had never had taro before I got to Taiwan. I'd never even heard of it. It reminds me a little bit of like radish, except bigger and not, you know, spicy at all. But yeah, taro balls aren't my favorite things. I don't like sweet taro balls at all. But those are some of the specialties that they offer there. Every city you go to, it seems, in Taiwan has a specialty that you've got to try before you leave, because that's what a tourist should do, darn it. So they've got taro balls, and they also have street foods, which are always fun. Taiwan has the best night markets in the world, as far as I'm concerned. It says here, but the most satisfying experience that'll make you feel like you really had a great time, is when you wander the winding streets. To wander means you go somewhere with no particular destination in mind. You're just enjoying yourself. You're looking around. And if the street winds, it goes back and forth, kind of like a snake. It curves around. It's not straight, where it goes north and south, east and west. These are winding streets, which is kind of fun.
And there are winding roads that lead to Jiufen, so you can expect to be driving on those winding mountain roads when you go there.
And get car sick, huh?
You might, but I don't think so, because traffic is really slow there on weekends because everybody wants to go there. But in any case, yes, these are some things you'll experience there. Taro balls and winding streets to go wandering around in. And you can also catch glimpses of the lantern-lined rooftops and dramatic coastal views from its endless narrow stairs. So, yes, indeed, you've got some glimpses. That means you can kind of see something a little bit as you're walking. You just kind of notice it in your field of vision. Oh, wow, I can see some rooftops that have lanterns on them. The lanterns, of course, are oftentimes red in color.
Ooh, that sounds really pretty. I think it might be a good picture if you're a photographer. So lantern-lined rooftops just means they've got lanterns, you know, kind of all over the rooftop. And then dramatic just means pretty spectacular. A dramatic coastal view would kind of take your breath away. It would be breathtaking, you could see. You could have a friend who's very dramatic. Someone's dramatic, they exaggerate things when they tell stories and, oh, everything's a big deal, you know. And then the opposite of dramatic is someone who's pretty easygoing, kind of laid back. But yeah, dramatic is pretty exciting, it gives you kind of a thrill, I guess. If you were looking at a dramatic coastal view, it might have a quick drop off. You'd have to be kind of careful over there if you got close to maybe at the cliffs and stuff. I'm not into climbing stairs, though, so I would try to avoid too many stairs.
Well, that one main alley or road or street through, Jiufen, doesn't have a lot of stairs there. You don't have to take the stairs, but you can still see lots of stuff. But, of course, you can see even more stuff if you go up and down those stairs from time to time.
Get a good view, huh?
And, yes, you'll get those dramatic views of the coast there, looking toward Geelong and Yelio. You can see all that on a clear day. Now, let's go a little bit far away from the north of Taiwan and go down to central Taiwan to Lugang in Zhanghua County. So we're going to Lugang Old Street there. Lugang in Zhanghua County was a busy port during the Qing Dynasty. Remember, the Qing Dynasty was a historical period of Chinese history. So during the Qing Dynasty or before the Japanese colonial era, Lugang was a busy port. They had boats coming in and out all the time.
Back then, what was a big thing to buy and sell would be the deer skin. So they would take the skin off deers and they would trade that, and that gave the city its name. So Lu, of course, is for the deer, and Gang is Shangang, the Gang. Right. It's the port. So I haven't seen this, although I've been to Zhanghua County a couple times. I'd like to get out there and see that. So this is what gave the city its name. A lot of cities have names that come from what their original purpose was. And so there was a lot of trade long ago here. Its geographic location is still an important part of Lugong's identity. I wanted to mention here quickly that when they turn the Chinese names into English, you'll often see a K represent a G sound, G, Lugang. But I think some foreigners they might say Lukang.
Or even Lu Kang.
Oh, Lu Kang, because they don't know.
And in Changhua County, they might say that too.
Yeah, Zhanghua County. Well, in Kaohsiung, it is spelled with a K too, which looks like Kaohsiung or something.
Or Ping Tong or Kenting or something like that.
We blame the original people that turn these cities into alphabet letters. When we talk about identity, it's who someone is. Little things about them. Your identification would be a picture ID, perhaps your passport or your 身份证, your ID card that you have to carry around. Those are parts of how people identify themselves. If you identify somebody, you say who they are. You know their name, their face. But here, Lugong's identity is kind of what makes it so special, what sets it apart. The fact that where it's located is important, and its history.
Indeed. And so lots of things contribute to its identity, like the snacks there. So nowadays, many of the best treats available on Lugong Old Street are based around seafood. Yes, that much is true. I think you can get cuttlefish there or squid on a stick. There are various kinds of snacks that are based around seafood.
That makes sense.
I think there's also that dragon whisker candy or something that's famous there as well. And Lugong, of course, is also known for its exceptional temples, including the Lugong Mazu Temple, and also that really narrow alley there, which is pretty cool too. If you use the word exceptional, you're talking about something that is very unique. It's unusual. You don't see it every day. So it's got these unique, exceptional temples like the Lugong Mazu Temple and also Longshan Temple.
It could also mean just really great and outstanding. Let's move on to the last place, Daxi Old Street. It's located in Taoyuan City, and it's a great place to wander around and shop there. That would be a fun place for me. I like to shop, as it is to be expected from a market street, which means there are a lot of vendors out there selling their goods on the street. There are many delightful snacks to try, such as dogan. So it says one of the biggest draws of Daxi Old Street is the elaborately carved stone facades above the shop's doors. If it's elaborate or elaborately done, it just means there's a lot of detail to it. It's not just a simple design. It's quite complicated. This sounds beautiful. A facade just means a fake front to a building. When they make films, a lot of times those buildings are fake. They just make the front of them, which is called the facade. They make that facade part look like it fits into whatever time period they're making the film in. This is something I would want to go see, those elaborately carved stone facades. So they're made out of rock.
Yep, in a lot of cases, the facades are still there, but the original building is gone. But still, it's something cool to see, and the details are truly remarkable. Remember to bring your camera. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. Here comes our Chinese teacher.
第三句，有香甜嚼劲的芋圆和其他食物可吃。句型是 there are 加主词再加形容词来修饰。这里用 to be had 被吃，不定词当形容词使用，来修饰前面的 taro bowls and others。但最令人满意的是蜿蜒的街头。The winding street 动词 wind 念成 wind 表示蜿蜒。The stream winds through the village 小溪蜿蜒流过村庄，加上 ing 变成形容词 winding street 蜿蜒的街头。如果当名词风就念成 wind， 并且看一看灯笼高挂成排的屋顶 glimpse 一瞥 一眼 catch glimpses of something 看了什么好几眼。Glimpse 也可以用 glance Glance 代替。Lantern-lined 复合形容词来修饰后面的 rooftops 屋顶，表达出9分的街景。接着我们到鹿港，鹿港是繁忙的港口，在清朝时期。第二句，虽然商业已不再集中在鹿皮买卖，句首 while 连接词当虽然，后面接让步子句 no longer 不再，副词相当于 no more。而 is focused on something 专注于，这里是被动语态，但其实也可以写成主动语态 focus on something， 所以写成 business no longer focuses on the deerskin trade 也是 OK 的。后面接着说，它的地理位置仍是它风貌中重要的一环。句为 identity， 除了身份，还可以当作特性。鹿港's identity， 鹿港的特性。再举一个例子，我们要 preserve the identities of the old town， 保留古镇的风貌。下一句，现在很多美食是以海鲜为主，鹿港也以它不同凡响的庙宇出名。is known for 加原因，表示以什么特色出名。exceptional temples， exceptional 特殊的，优秀的。They are exceptional students， 他们是优秀的学生。最后来到大溪老街，位在桃园，适合漫游和购物。第二句，正如预期能从市场上得到的一般，句首 as 当准关系代名词，表示正如什么一样，代替后面 There are many delightful snacks to try 这句话，表示正如有许多美味点心可从市场期待一样。也可以将 There are 这句话放前面，再加上 as is to be expected from a market street。 下一句，然而其中一个最大的吸引力是它精雕细琢的门板。 Draw 这里当名词，表示吸引人的事物。 Facade 建筑物的正面， That is the facade of the palace 那是宫殿的正面，还可以当表面，例如 Her honesty was all a facade 她的诚实只是一种表面现象。既然是很吸引人，这些细节自然是 remarkable 非凡的。以上是今天的讲解，谢谢收听。
Okay, that brings us to the end of our lesson for today, but please join us again next time when we talk about some other old streets in Taiwan, the old street in Penghu and in Neiwan and in Inga, and we might mention some other ones as we talk. So please join us then. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.